Adrian Peterson was one of the best running backs of all time.
Peterson hard running, first down, more, and Peterson is touchdown, he's in.
Explosive.
Jarris Burt, look at the speed.
Unstoppable.
Breaking into the open field, and he shoves away one, shoves away another, and blasts his way into the end zone.
A nightmare for defenses. But on draft night, 6 guys went ahead of him. And while Adrian Peterson went on to have one of the greatest careers that we have ever seen, some of the players taken before him followed very different paths. So today you're going to find out what happened to the 6 guys taken ahead of AP. Starting with the number 1 overall pick, Jamarcus Russell. And it's kind of weird to think back to this draft because at the time there was a ton of hype around this guy, and honestly, back then you could see exactly why. At LSU, he was putting up crazy numbers. In the Sugar Bowl against Notre Dame, Russell threw for 332 yards, 2 touchdowns, and ran another one in. LSU won 41-14, and Russell walked away with the Sugar Bowl MVP. Over his whole college career, he threw for 6,625 yards with 56 total touchdowns and just 21 interceptions. He had the best passing efficiency rate in the entire SEC during that final season, but what really made scouts lose their minds was his pro day. We're talking about one of the most insane workouts that anybody had ever seen. His arm strength was on full display, and the guy was built like a freaking tank, standing in at 6 feet 6 inches tall. He could make throws that most NFL guys could never even dream about trying. So Oakland took him first overall, thinking that they had just found their franchise quarterback for the next 10 plus years. Yeah, that did not work out at all. Russell's rookie year was terrible, and it started off on about the worst possible note. He refused to play until the Raiders gave him more money. This was even before he saw a single snap. After Oakland finally caved in and gave him a $60+ million deal, he started 1 game out of the 4 that he played in during his rookie season. He completed less than 55% of his pass attempts and threw for just 373 yards with 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. And by the way, they lost that 1 game that he started in. Now, to be fair to him, year 2 looked like a step in the right direction. He started 15 games and threw for over 2,400 yards, but Oakland still went 5-11, and Russell looked completely lost half the time. Every now and then he would string together a few decent performances, but it didn't last too long. Then year number 3 hit and everything just collapsed. He completed less than 50% of his pass attempts, threw for only 1,287 yards, and had 3 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. After they lost to Kansas City in November, Coach Tom Cable benched him, and that was pretty much it. But you know we can't talk about Jamarcus Russell without at least bringing up the tape story. To put things simply, Russell was super lazy. It seemed like he wasn't watching film, and the coaches wanted to see if that was actually true, so they gave him some quote-unquote plays on a tape. Except this tape was totally blank, nothing on it at all, and the very next day, Russell said that he studied all the plays.
So the next day they come to practice, come to the facility, say, hey, Jamarcus, hey, how's that DVD? Did you look at it? What did it? He's like, oh, coach, all the plays. I'm good. Whatever you want to run, let's do it. I like him. He said, okay, which ones you like? 5 of them? Do you like 6 of them? 10 of them? How much you like? Coach, whatever. I saw him, that we good. We ready to go.
Yeah, that pretty much sums him up. Oakland took someone who looked unstoppable in college and watched him completely fall apart in front of their eyes in 3 years.
Whether it's, Trent Richardson, Ryan Leaf, all of those things, whenever that dreaded word bust comes up, you're a part of it.
And today, well, things aren't much better. In 2023, he was actually removed from a volunteer coaching job at Williamson High School in Mobile, Alabama. Apparently, there were allegations that he took a $74,000 donation that was supposed to go to the school and cashed it in for himself. So even years after his NFL career died, Russell is still making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Pick number 2, though, a whole different story.
Stafford, who took a hit, firing for the end zone.
At Georgia Tech, Calvin Johnson was putting up insane numbers. I'm talking 2,927 receiving yards and 29 total touchdowns in 38 games. But it wasn't the stats that made scouts lose their minds. It was how he caught the ball. Johnson could just make these catches that shouldn't even have been possible. Diving one-handed grabs that people just could not stop talking about. When he went up for a ball in traffic, you just knew that he was going to come down with it. So the Lions took him second overall, even though they didn't have a good history of picking receivers in the first round. Here's the problem though. The Lions were absolutely terrible, like historically awful. Johnson was walking into a complete disaster, a team that would go 0-16 just 1 year after he arrived. But even on a team that bad, Johnson made an impact right away. He had 756 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns as a rookie, plus he ran one in as well. Even in his second year, that 0-16 season, you know what Johnson did? Well, he led the entire league with 12 touchdown catches on a team that just couldn't win one game. Calvin Johnson was still one of the best receivers in all of football. That was just the beginning. From 2010 to 2015, Megatron had 6 straight 1,000-yard seasons while leading the league in receiving yards twice. In 2011, he had 1,681 yards. Then in 2012, he broke Jerry Rice's single-season receiving record with 1,964 yards, and that record still stands to this day. He didn't have the longevity of Jerry. I mean, it's likely that nobody ever will again, but during his prime, Johnson was probably the most unguardable receiver of all time.
And this time Stafford going up on top to Calvin Johnson, who makes the catch.
His catch radius, you can't do anything to emulate that.
The dude was basically unstoppable. Teams would put 3 guys on him and he'd still come down with the catch. Whether it was that 96-yard touchdown against the Texans in 2008, or the time he shredded the Cowboys for over 300 yards, Megatron completely changed how teams had to think about covering receivers. After retirement, he did have a bit of a fallout with the Lions organization, but last year they did finally induct him into their Pride of the Lions, which is basically Detroit's Ring of Honor. The guy gave everything that he had to this franchise for 9 seasons, and the Lions fans are never going to forget what Megatron did for them. It's just kind of sad to think that the Lions never even won a single playoff game during Johnson's whole career. Joe Thomas is the next guy who got picked, and just like Megatron, he played for years on a team that absolutely sucked, and even went 0-16 themselves. At Wisconsin, Thomas was the best college lineman in the country. Unanimous All-American, the whole deal. But he was so relaxed about all of it that he actually went fishing with his dad on draft day. He knew he was going to go somewhere high up, but he probably had no clue that he was about to get drafted to one of the most frustrating situations in all of football. The Browns took him 3rd overall, and right away, Thomas became one of the best tackles in the league. He played all 16 games as a rookie, made the Pro Bowl, and came in 2nd for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, when an offensive lineman is getting Rookie of the Year votes like that, you know he's something special. From there, he became a surefire lock for the Hall of Fame while playing for some of the worst Browns teams in NFL history. Thomas made the Pro Bowl in his first 10 seasons. He was either first or second team All-Pro 8 years in a row, and he played every single snap for over 10,000 straight plays until his final season in 2017. That's more than 10 years in a row without missing one single play. Thomas actually hit his 10,000th straight snap in Baltimore. There was no ceremony or anything. The play was just a regular 9-yard run to Isaiah Crowell. Thomas then jogged back to the huddle and got ready for the next snap, 10,001. That basically sums up his whole career right there. He just went about his business, play after play, locking in his position as one of the best players to ever set foot on the field. The sad thing is, his rookie year was the only time they ever had a winning record. Think about how hard it is for a lineman to get noticed when their teams are winning games. Now imagine trying to get noticed when your team basically loses every single week. But Thomas was so good that everybody already knew who he was. He made the Hall of Fame first ballot in 2023 and was the first Brown to get in since they moved back to Cleveland in 1999. These days, he's found his calling after football. He's now an NFL Network analyst and co-hosts the Tomahawk Show podcast with his old Browns teammate Andrew Hawkins. And it makes sense. The guy was always one of the smartest players in the league, so breaking down football for people is right in his wheelhouse. Alright, the first 3 picks you can't really fault. I mean, Jamarcus Russell looked the part ahead of the draft, and the second and third picks turned into Hall of Famers. Now things are about to get really interesting, because at pick number 4, we've got Gaines Adams. At Clemson, Adams was a unanimous All-American who led the ACC with 12.5 sacks during his final season. The guy looked unstoppable in college, and he could just run right around those slower offensive tackles and get to the quarterback pretty much whenever he wanted. The Bucs took him 4th overall, and honestly, his rookie year looked pretty dang good. Adams had 6 sacks, 38 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and 14 quarterback hits. He had a 2-sack game against the Falcons in Week 11 when they blew them out 31-7, and the Bucs even made the playoffs that same year. They lost to the Giants in the wildcard round, but Adams got a sack in that game as well. Year number 2 was more of the same, 6.5 sacks, 38 tackles, and 21 quarterback hits. Nothing crazy, but solid numbers for a young pass rusher. Then 2009 came around and everything fell apart. Adams only started 5 out of the 15 games that he played in. He got just 1 sack, and after week number 5, the Bucs had seen enough of him, trading him to Chicago for a 2nd-round draft pick in October. In 10 games with the Bears, he barely did anything. 7 tackles, 1 pass deflection, and 1 forced fumble, but no sacks. The problem was pretty clear. In college, Adams could just use that speed to blow past these offensive tackles. But in the NFL, pretty much every guy is the best at what they do, so he never really lived up to that 4th overall pick hype. And unfortunately, on January 17, 2010, Gaines Adams passed away out of nowhere due to an enlarged heart. He suffered cardiac arrest at his home at just 26 years old. Really sad. But after Gaines Adams, we had Levi Brown out of Penn State. And coming into the draft, Brown was seen as one of the best offensive tackles in the whole 2007 class. The Cardinals needed somebody to protect their quarterback, and this guy looked perfect. He was also really smart. I'm talking about a guy who started working on his master's degree before he even went pro. The Cardinals took him 5th overall, and his rookie year was fine. I mean, he started 11 games and played 13 total. For the next few years, Brown was pretty reliable. He was on the team when the Cardinals made it all the way to the Super Bowl in 2008, protecting Kurt Warner. They almost capped off one of the craziest postseason runs ever, thanks to Larry Fitzgerald going nuts, but they just couldn't match Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers. 2010 against the Saints, Brown even managed to score a touchdown. Quarterback Max Hall fumbled near the goal line, and Brown jumped on it to score. The Cardinals won that game 30-20, but then 2012 came around. Brown tore his right triceps muscle during the preseason and missed the whole regular season. When he came back in 2013, he looked like a totally different player. During his first game back, Robert Quinn took advantage of this guy. I mean, he got 3 sacks while going up against Brown, while also forcing 2 fumbles on that day. The Cardinals had seen enough. They traded Brown to Pittsburgh towards the beginning of the 2013 season, but he never played a single snap for the Steelers after missing most of the year on IR. They ended up cutting him in 2014, and that was pretty much it for his NFL career. But remember when I was talking about that master's degree? Well, he actually stuck with it. He started taking classes in the offseason, and in 2016, he graduated. Now he works as a financial coach, helping people manage their money. So while Brown never became that franchise tackle the Cardinals had in mind, at least he had a backup plan. The 6th pick, though, that's a completely different story. Because next up, we've got LaRon Landry out of LSU. And he was a straight up beast in college. He played 51 games for the Tigers and had 12 interceptions. He helped LSU win the national championship in 2003 as a true freshman, then became an All-American by his senior year. Washington loved what they saw out of this guy and threw him a huge contract. 5 years, $41.5 million with $17.5 guaranteed. They made him the starting strong safety right next to Pro Bowl free safety Sean Taylor. This was going to be one of the scariest safety duos in the NFL. Sean Taylor was already a superstar, and Landry looked like the perfect guy to put next to him. But then in November of 2007, Taylor got shot by intruders at his Miami home while he was trying to protect his family and died the next day. We never truly got to see what could have happened if those two played together. Landry was known for his huge hits, and you've got to think with enough time to gel, these two would have been terrifying. But Landry also became known for something else, getting busted for performance-enhancing drugs. 2014, he got a 4-game suspension for PEDs. Then in 2015, he was suspended for the first 10 games for doing it again. But you would think he would stop after that. Well, later that same year, Landry tested positive for PEDs a 3rd time. And when you get caught 3 times, well, you're pretty much done. Landry did make 1 Pro Bowl in 2012 with the Jets with 100 tackles and 2 interceptions, including a pick 6. And as good as Landry was, he wasn't even close to this guy right here.
With the 7th pick in the 2007 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Adrian Peterson, running back, Oklahoma.
Explosive was the word, because at Oklahoma, Peterson was an absolute monster. In his freshman season in 2004, he led the Big 12 in rushing yards with 1,925 yards and 15 touchdowns. He was an All-American and finished 2nd in Heisman voting behind only Matt Leinart. And over the next 2 seasons, even though he was hurt a bit, he still dominated.
Needs a block on the corner, cuts in over tackle, spins, 25-30, 35-40, he'll go all the way, 50, 45-40, 35-30, 25-20, 15, 10-5, touchdown Oklahoma.
And if people were worried about him making the jump to the pros, well, they shouldn't have been. Peterson ran for 1,341 yards and 12 touchdowns in just 14 games as a rookie. He only started in 9 of those games, but he still led the entire league with a 95.8 rushing yards per game average. His best moment that year was when he set the single game rushing record with 296 yards. Think about that, almost 300 yards as a rookie.
And this is Peterson. Peterson into the open, midfield, 45, and there he goes! To the 10, touchdown! Back to Adrian Peterson in the ground game. Cuts inside a block, inside the 40, up the sideline, and he's gone!
But that was just the start. Peterson was like those old school power runners, but better. He had this insane combination of speed, size, and strength that you almost never saw. Teams would put 8 or 9 guys in the box to stop him, and he would still run right through all of them. His second season, Peterson led the league in rushing. He ended up leading the league actually 3 times total and became a 7-time Pro Bowler and 4-time All-Pro first-teamer. But that 2012 season was something entirely different, especially coming off a knee injury as serious as an ACL tear that normally destroys careers.
It's the greatest rushing season that the NFL has ever seen.
A modern player carrying the load against modern defenses and still cranking out 6 yards per carry.
Peterson ran for 2,097 yards that year, just 9 yards short of Eric Dickerson's all-time single-season rushing record. But the crazy thing is, he did it on 31 fewer carries than Dickerson. He basically dragged the Vikings to the playoffs that year with Christian Ponder at quarterback.
The intensity he plays with, the violence he runs with, those are the things that define him as a runner.
Bulldogs to the end zone!
It was the last time a non-quarterback won MVP, and it legit might have been the greatest single season by a running back ever. Peterson finished his career with 14,918 rushing yards and 126 total touchdowns. He's 5th all-time in rushing yards, which is nuts when you think about how much time he missed. He basically lost most of the 2014 and 2016 seasons, plus a few games of the 2011 season because of the injury. But even at 33 years old in 2018, Peterson was still showing that he had some left in the tank. In his first game with Washington, he ran for 96 yards and a touchdown against Arizona. So while 6 teams passed on Peterson, the Vikings got one of the greatest running backs of all time. And I just can't end this video without mentioning that the 2007 draft class was absolutely loaded with talent. Patrick Willis went 11th to the 49ers and became one of the most dominant linebackers of his generation. The guy made 7 Pro Bowls and 5 All-Pro first-team appearances before retiring early. He's already in the Hall of Fame and would have easily been a top 5 draft pick. Then you had Darrelle Revis going 14th to the Jets. Revis became the best cornerback of his era, arguably one of the best ever in his prime. In those Revis Island days, nobody could catch anything when he was covering them. He made 7 Pro Bowls, won a Super Bowl with the Patriots, and got into the Hall of Fame too. So when you add it all up, 4 of these guys are already in the Hall of Fame, and Peterson is going to make that 5. Having a top 6 pick in this draft could have landed you the type of player that changes the game on both sides of the ball. Obviously, in hindsight, it looks terrible that the Raiders picked Russell, but they'd probably do it all over again. It's picks 4, 5, and 6 that really missed out. But I want to know what you guys think. What was your favorite Adrian Peterson moment? Let me know in the comment section down below, and if you want to see what happened to the running backs who did crack the top 3 draft picks, take a look at this video right here.